Young Leo felt the world was painted in shades of gray, especially after his family moved to the quiet, unfamiliar town of Elmwood. His parents were busy. The schoolyard felt vast and empty, and the towering Victorian houses lining the streets seemed to stare down at him with cold, unwelcoming windows. He spent his afternoons wandering the winding lanes, kicking pebbles, wishing for a friend, a secret, anything to pierce the monotony. Then, one overcast Tuesday, exploring a neglected path behind the old library he never usually took, he stumbled upon something impossible. Where yesterday had stood only tangled weeds and an old oak tree, now rested a small, crooked cottage. It looked impossibly ancient, its timber beams warped with time, its thatched roof sprouting wildflowers, and smoke curling invitingly from a tiny, red brick chimney. Hesitantly, drawn by a scent like cinnamon and old books, Leo pushed open the slightly ajar, blue-painted door. Inside wasn't grand, but impossibly warm and lived in. Sunlight streamed through small, leaded windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Every surface was covered. Shelves groaned under the weight of leather-bound volumes and peculiar trinkets. Dried herbs hung from the rafters, and a plump ginger cat blinked sleepily from a worn armchair by a crackling fire. "Hello?" Leo called softly, his voice swallowed by the cozy quiet. A figure emerged from a shadowed doorway. A woman so old she seemed woven from time itself, her face a map of wrinkles, but her eyes bright and curious as a bird's. "Ah," she said, her voice like dry leaves rustling. "Tuesday's visitor right on time. Would you like some tea?" Her name was Elara, and she became Leo's secret sanctuary. Appearing only on that one specific day each week, Tuesdays transformed from the dullest day into the one Leo lived for. He'd rush straight from school, heart pounding, to find the cottage nestled in its impossible spot. Elara would greet him with steaming mugs of spiced tea and slices of dense, honeyed cake that tasted of sunshine. She never spoke of ordinary things. Instead, she spun tales that filled the little house with magic, stories of whispering forests that walked, of stars that sang lullabies to the moon, of a river that flowed backwards to heal broken hearts, and of her own youth spent sailing on clouds. Leo sat mesmerized, the gray world outside forgotten, replaced by the vibrant colors of Elara's imagination. The ginger cat, Marmalade, would often curl up on Leo's lap, purring a deep, comforting rhythm to the soundtrack of her incredible voice. Weeks turned into months, marked only by the weekly appearance of the cottage. Leo shared his own small sorrows, the loneliness, the difficulty making friends, the feeling of being unseen. Elara listened, her ancient eyes holding a depth of understanding that needed no words. She didn't offer easy solutions, but stories. She told him of a tiny, shy star who thought its light was too dim, only to discover it held the unique power to paint the dawn sky with impossible colors. She spoke of a seed buried deep in frozen earth, feeling lost and forgotten, patiently waiting for its moment to become a towering oak. Her stories weren't just escapism. They were gentle mirrors reflecting his own fears and hopes, wrapped in enchantment, telling him he wasn't alone and that hidden strength often blooms unseen. One crisp autumn Tuesday, Leo ran down the familiar path, a perfect red maple leaf clutched in his hand to show Elara. But when he turned the corner, his steps faltered. The space behind the old library was empty. Only the tangled weeds and the ancient oak stood there. No crooked chimney, no blue door, no scent of cinnamon. A cold dread seeped into Leo's bones. He searched frantically, pushing through the undergrowth, calling Elara's name softly, then louder, but the cottage was simply gone. Marmalade didn't appear. The spot felt hollow, chillingly ordinary. Leo stood there until dusk painted the sky, the red leaf falling forgotten from his numb fingers, a profound sense of loss settling over him, heavier than any fog. The next Tuesday, and the one after that, Leo returned, hope a fragile ember in his chest, but the cottage remained stubbornly absent. Just as the gray of winter began to truly settle, a thin letter arrived for Leo, addressed in a spidery, unfamiliar script. Inside was a single, yellowed key on a frayed blue ribbon, and a note. For Leo, keeper of Tuesdays, the stories live where you remember them. Look under the oak's third root. Yours, Elara. Heart pounding, Leo raced back to the empty spot, scraping away frozen earth beneath the gnarled oak's third root. His fingers found a small, beautifully carved wooden box. Weathered but intact, inside the box lay no jewels, but treasures far more precious. A smooth, worry-worn river stone Elara had once described as holding a captured sunset. A single, perfectly preserved feather of a bird she claimed could speak the language of dreams. A tiny vial of iridescent sand from a beach that existed only at low tide under a blue moon. And nestled beneath them all, a thick leather-bound journal. Its pages were filled with Elara's elegant script. Every story she had ever told Leo, and countless more on the first page, she had written. For the boy who made an old woman's Tuesdays bright. Stories are seeds. Leo plant them, watch them grow, sitting beneath the bare oak branches. The cold forgotten. Leo traced the words. Elara was gone. Her magical house vanished. But the warmth of Tuesdays, the scent of cinnamon, and the power of her voice now lived within him, nestled deep in his heart and held within the pages of the journal. He wasn't alone anymore. He carried a world inside him. Years later, long after Elmwood felt like home, Leo, now a man with gentle eyes and a quiet smile, would sit in his own cozy study, filled with books and curiosities. Every Tuesday evening, children from the town would gather on his rug, their faces bright with anticipation, and Leo would open the worn leather journal, its pages whispering with the scent of cinnamon and time. Once he would begin, his voice warm and inviting. There was a magical house that appeared only on Tuesdays, and as he spun tales of walking forests and singing stars, of lonely boys and wise old women, the extraordinary warmth of those long ago Tuesdays filled the room, proving that while houses might vanish, the magic of stories, once shared, endures forever.